Hi, my name's John, and this is Business Update. In this week's episode, we'll be talking about the Switch Joy-Con issue. Now, actually, they've released the latest Switch version for the OLED screen. Now, there were discussions as to were they able to fix the drifting issue with their joystick control. So we'll talk about that. Next is we've discussed in the past regarding the PAREX construction, the Pasig River Expressway, which is sort of controversial in a sense. Why was it uh, approved in a sense? And the fast approval is the question at hand here. We'll be talking about that in a bit. And lastly, we'll be talking about how Amazon treats its customers. Sorry, their delivery partners at that. So it seems like more and more reports have been coming out regards how they treat their uh, customers, their partners, sellers, and resellers, and even their employees are speaking up and you know treating them like as robots. So we'll delve into that in a bit. So to start off, so we have Nintendo who recently launched the Switch OLED screen version, which is about time, but on their heels is Valve's release or planned soon to be released Steam Deck, which is going to compete with the Switch console here. But anyway, so according to techspot.com here, Nintendo engineers, so it's the people inside Nintendo, is saying that the Switch Joy-Con drift is caused by wear and is unavoidable, which is reasonable in a sense, but obviously if you own a Switch console, if it's detachable, then it's easily replaced. But if you own a Switch Lite, well, that's a totally different aspect altogether because you're stuck with it for the whole duration. So it's sort of a cop up in a sense because it's not as if like with just like any other consoles you could just replace the controller. But for the Switch itself, you depend solely on the controller itself. If it's damaged, then you can replace it. But for the portable light, that's a big issue altogether here. Anyway, so the issue has been ongoing for several years already. I mean, I've encountered that myself. Actually, I had to replace it because my kid dropped it, so I had to replace it. But I already had experienced the drifting issues when I was using it over course of a certain period. And at the time, I thought it was my fault because of maybe excess pressing of the button in a sense. But when you release it, it would automatically move by itself, which is not ideal, especially if you're playing a particular game that's very movement driven, especially if you're playing a 2D game like maybe Hollow Knight or Metroid. So question here is there were questions with regards to the developer asking them through the Nintendo executive Toru Yamashita, and they've said that they have improved the wear resistance and durability of the analog sticks that ship with the various Switch model. Well, obviously, that's not enough because improving is one thing, but ensuring the reliability of its device is important here because obviously it impedes your immersion with playing the game, having to deal with technical issues or hardware issues here. And they go on to say that even if with the improvements, they go on to say that where is unavoidable, but that's not an excuse because if you're going to really imagine that if they were to do that in other products, let's say a vehicle of sorts, they say that wear and tear is part of it, that you have to maintain it, then give us an option to replace it quickly. But for the light, that's not an option here. So what's the solution here? So are they saying it up front so that they won't get sued, but try to cover their asses here? We don't know. Actually, another executive, Ko Shiota, mentions it compares to a vehicle where tires which wear out over time due to the constant friction. Yeah, but the tires are different. It's a key component. So similar to the joystick controller here, it's a key component, and there should be a way to replace it. And there should be a certain period where it would last, right? If it's just, let's say, a tire would would last several years, right, before you replace it. And there's a certain expectations also with your devices, particularly the Joy-Con stick, that it would last at least a year or so before it wears out, depending on the type of use. And if you cannot, make that claim, then you have a subpar product here, which is, just because you say that, it's similar to other product where it degrades over time, then you could just say to any other product. But you can say, you know that with any other devices, that if it wears down, that you cannot replace it, or there's no warranty involved with it. And I think that's where the misunderstanding is, unless it's clarified, so to speak. Anyway, so Mr. Yamashita goes on to say that the degree of wear depends on the multiple factors, which is kind of true. Depends on how you use it and where you use it for. Will obviously have an effect in the longevity of your Joy-Con stick here. But the fact of the matter is, you produce a product wherein, one of the key parts, which is the stick, the controlling stick for movement, is the liability here. And the fact that they have faced several class action lawsuit is the big issue here. So unless they try to resolve that immediately, I think that's not going to go away, regardless of what type of version of the Joy-Cons they release in the futures here, unless they made a recall so that they could just replace it. Or maybe you could go to any store that you bought your Switch, and then you can just replace it outright, which is similar to, if there's a defective seat belt, then the massive recall is important. Obviously that's more on a life or death situation. That's why it needs the mass recall. But for Joy-Con, I think it should be on the same level, because Nintendo, for selling a product that is not superior to consumers' expectation, should be held to a higher level, so that if they did a great job in releasing a great product, then people would applaud it. But if it's not, then they should be called upon so that it can be rectified, so that everyone could benefit. Obviously, we want a product that is ideal for both sides, meaning selling a product that people can enjoy, for not just for the short term, but in the long term as well here. And obviously, if that were the case, lawsuits will not be filed in the first place here. And I hope Nintendo is listening, so that they could avoid these issues moving on. So improving the screen is aesthetically pleasing on one hand, but obviously at the end of the day, the controllers itself, especially, imagine if the triggers is not working properly. Whose fault is it defective? Because of the wear and tear, or is it because of the how it was made in the first place? Because obviously, if you're going to get it fixed, it's going to, you have to spend a lot of money, and at worst you have to waste a lot of your time and effort doing that. But if you engineered a superior product in the first place, even if you charge a lot for that product, people would still buy it, right? Because they know that it's of high quality here. Anyway, I'll keep everyone updated regards to this issue, whether there's going to be any changes here, or it would still be as is here. Anyway, another update that we have here, we've talked about the Pasig River Exchange development by the San Miguel Corporation here, which is, I don't see the point here, but it looks like it's going to go as planned, because it's already approved by the government here. So according to Rappler.com, mobility advocates questions the unusually fast approval process by the government of this particular project. So let's take a closer look. Now, I'm nothing against with progress for the sake of progress, but does it make sense for the common citizen who's supposed to benefit here? And question, who stands to benefit in the expressway here? And take note, it's not a free expressway. There's going to be toll here, so people are going to be charged either way. So I don't know what the benefit here is. Obviously, it's different when you're talking of the North Luzon Expressway, where you're trying to connect the northern part of the region versus, let's say, the South Luzon Expressway or SLEX, to connect the southern part of the region to the metro here, or to the Manila area here. Now, advocates had been stating that the PAREX process from public consultation to groundbreaking took only a mere 72 days, so roughly less than 3 months, which is normally would take longer because of a lot of approvals that need to go through, especially the environmental issues here, which we'll talk about in a bit. uh, Now, technically, according to the article, the project is not legal per se because it went to the proper channels, but it goes to the question is who were the one who approved it, and what was the criteria, why was it approved that fast. It's something that maybe we could look at. And what's interesting that they already broke ground so to start the construction. But here's the key part. The environmental compliance certificate from the DENR, or Department of Environment and Natural Resources, has not yet been signed. So meaning, how are they able to start the project without any approval, or without the approval of key agencies from our government, which is, puts it into question here. Are they trying to fast track here so that, less people would inquire about it? And obviously, I'm on the side of why do we even need to construct the expressway in the first place? Because if it's a highway that would benefit everyone, or all citizens, or majority of our citizens, then won't it stand to reason, rather than just build the highway, why do we just build on the same road that they're building the railway system or public transportation system that would transport more people rather than a small segment here? Because obviously the people who can benefit the expressway are those who own cars. And guess what? Majority of our people don't own cars here, and expecting them to use all of it with, with the congestions that we encounter here on a daily basis, because most of our people here still can't afford to buy their own cars. And building this highway don't make sense here. Actually, the recent project with the Skyway connecting the North and South Expressway here makes sense because you're trying to bypass the typical roads, that's the EDSA highway, that it's typically congested on a daily basis, even during a pandemic here. So finding ways to alleviate it, providing subways, which they are doing, I think, right now in parts of EDSA, but we still need more. It's not just the subway, but the existing railway, because in other countries like in Japan, which I've been to, and even in Taiwan, or even Japan, they built this network of system to connect different parts, or all parts of their city, so that it makes it convenient for everyone, especially those who can afford to buy vehicles. And if it were to be done properly, I think even every walks of life would take advantage of this, and save more of our expenses rather than spend it on buying vehicles, so to speak. So but either way, actually, there's a Greenpeace person, Mr. RJ Malyari, goes on to say the planned tollway would kill the already biological dead Pasig, which is another issue altogether. Obviously, the Pasig River, as it is right now, is not doing really well because we're not taking care of it as it is. And then putting a highway, no matter if it's in the middle or the side part of the river, it's still going to affect the ecosystem there. Can San Miguel vouch for that? What studies have been done to ensure that it could take care of itself, which is based on experience. Have they done that in their projects in the North and South Expressways here? And that's why you have to ask those key questions as to, was the project cleared in the proper channels, or was there any circumvention of the process here, which you know looks suspicious, highly suspicious. But at the end of the day, the project, hopefully it could be delayed or postponed rather than pushed through, because again, it's going to cause another headway here. And I could just imagine when the final project is finished, it would look terrible in our landscape here, especially for the many of the bridges that it's going to cover up. So typically when you have a bridge from one area to another, you can see the beautiful views of the different cities along the river here. Now with the expressway on top of it, that's another layer here. It's not going to be aesthetically pleasing here, right? It's as if that the project itself would be detrimental or beneficial to majority of Filipinos here. Anyway, we'll keep you updated with this with this topic. Anyway, finally here. So again, Amazon, has been in a lot of news lately, not for all the good reasons, with how they treat their customers, their resellers, and even their partners or even employees. And one of the key partners that they have that they rely upon is the delivery partners that deliver the parcels from their warehouses all the way to the doorsteps of their customers here, right? And the issue here is, they're being treated as if they're like robots in a sense, because obviously there is a timeline here. Obviously, the more that they could deliver better service for the consumers, but obviously, to what extent is it even realistic here? And it was mentioned that they're I think they're going too far here as to what they're implementing. I think there were reports before that they cannot take breaks so that they could reach a certain quota, whether it's, I think, 60 deliveries or 100 deliveries per day. So meaning they cannot even go to the toilet and have a bathroom break if they needed. So the reports were that they had to even bring their own plastic bottles so that they can pee inside the car, which is not hygienic in a sense. Calling Mr. What do you call this? Mr. Bezos here, being advocates for environmental, focusing on conquering space, but here in our own planet, you have problems here left and right, and I don't see him speaking about it, right? Even though he stepped out as the CEO, current CEO of Amazon, and it's not just that. Now it's being like it's like being discussed here that according to one of the delivery peoples or their partners, that they cannot even make mistakes, that they'll be penalized because there's a scoring system that was mentioned here, that if you don't meet a certain threshold or grade points here, that you will not be utilized, or it will have a negative impact on your business in the long run. So you have to follow certain guidelines and rules that has to be followed to the T. And let's say if you made certain stops, it will be recorded and it will go against your driving skills. And then they're putting cameras inside it to track of your movements, whether you're attentive or not, which is kind of if it's not foolproof still. And it seems more likely that they want to treat their employees as robots, which they cannot. And even if they're investing a lot more in terms of technology to eventually replicate or replace the humans within the workplace, but still at the end of the delivery, even the drone self-driving vehicle is still years or decades away before people would be replaced uh, totally. And no matter what advancement or idea that Amazon has, it's going to bite them in the end, because at the end of the day, you still have to deal with people. You can expedite the process, but you still need people to, just like when mailman delivers your mail every day, sometimes you talk to them, you build a relationship here, and if there's no person in front of it, it's just a box there. You don't know, if it comes from the company, but there's no relationship here. You're not invested here. The only thing missing here is if there were someone to compete with Amazon, I think people would just switch easily because there's no investment here. It's just the convenience that Amazon provides here. But anyway, let's see here. Where was it? Yes. So now we've reached a tipping point wherein the drivers themselves are speaking up with regards to the issue that they're dealing with the requirements that they have to provide just to be able to meet the demands or quotas from Amazon itself. So it's not easy. Uh, let's see here. Yeah. So what's interesting here, Amazon is using machines and algorithms that manage the operation and should be blamed for its pressure for on the partners and the drivers. So meaning relying too much on technology, the analytic part, which is beneficial for many decision makers, but solely relying on one aspect and not looking at different aspects doesn't paint the whole picture. So if you look at the data, obviously the data sometimes can be misleading because the actual reality is totally different here. No people, when you deliver one, then you just deliver to another and another. You need time to be able to take to account. So meaning, what's the interval between each deliveries and how far is this? That's why you can give a certain number, but you cannot penalize if they don't reach it, because you're going to create a set of new problems if you're going to insist of certain requirements here. So having video cameras, smartphone apps to monitor drivers move is not keen. It's akin to to being robotic here, dictating dictatorship in a sense that you have to do this, and if you're not able to do that, then you'll not stay in the business here. And doing this in a long periods of time, lasting for as much as 10 hours, half a day, that's a near impossible task here. And thinking, what if your car breaks down? What's the contingency here? Will you be penalized here? Is there policies that's being discussed here, which is the main issue here? It's not just service at the detriment of the experience of your partners, which is, if they quit, you find another one, it still be the same problems here, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. And obviously your delivery parts are the ones who always get blamed. If why are they late, what's the hold up, why the terrible service. It's not as if it's Mr. Jeff Bezos who's dealing with those delivery partners in the first place. And obviously the working conditions is tough on its own, and with the pandemic that's ongoing, it's also unforgiving. And they've already reached to a point where drivers had abandoned their vans and disappeared. So that's how bad the situation has gotten into. So you could just imagine, if I were in their place, it's not a good working experience. But if those people have no other options for work, or some have already invested a lot in this business, obviously Amazon is the only one benefiting in terms of getting the revenue, but not getting blamed for the service. But they're part of the ecosystem because they're the one who allowed it to be, requiring unrealistic expectation here. I think they need to adjust, or to converse with those partners, and see what is reasonable or not. That's why, even if they offer the 1 day delivery shipping is ideal, yeah, it benefits the consumer. But can the company actually deliver in a realistic manner? And obviously you're seeing the results here, that it goes way beyond what is realistic and humanly possible, so to speak. It's not as if you could just teleport from one place to another here. But we'll keep you updated with regards to the progress of how Amazon is dealing with the situation. Or actually, they're not doing anything about it. That's the whole problem here. Anyway, I think that concludes our discussion for this week. Thanks again for watching. Come back again on Wednesday for more business update. And if you enjoy watching these types of video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Also, you can leave your comments down below if you have any question with regards to today's topic. I'll also leave the links below for the full article if you're interested in reading them. As always, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.